Hi everybody. This is a sick Jennifer McCreath, Monday, June 13th, 2022. Yes, I barely have my voice, and I look like a mess because I haven't showered or shaved today. Definitely some sort of a bug going around the office. Hopefully we'll feel better in a couple days, but I just couldn't wait any longer to turn the camera on and talk about this Wimbledon situation. Everybody who knows me, you know my connection with the sport of tennis, and it goes back a long time. And today marked the beginning of two of the big Wimbledon warm-up tournaments, Halle and Queens. And much like Wimbledon, Queens is also banning Belarusian and Russian players from participating in their event. And when the announcement was made that Wimbledon was going to be, or not, I guess it's Wimbledon and the London Tennis Association announced that individuals from these countries would not be welcome to participate, the ATP and the WTA said, okay, fine then, we're not going to sanction the events. There's not going to be any ranking points. However, they're keeping the points at Queens because the Russians and Belarusians can go play at Halle. Halle is in Germany, by the way. Okay, fair enough, I guess. So basically, we got two things happening here. One is the announcement that the Russian players and the Belarusian players would not be allowed to play Wimbledon. Wimbledon is a private club. They have a right to do whatever the hell they want to do, as long as they're not breaking any laws. Some might question, is this a human rights violation? We've heard the arguments about not allowing her. We don't want to proliferate anything positive about the country of Russia while this is ongoing. The war? Hear that, Putin? I said the word war. What are you going to do about it, buddy? However, this is not the Olympics. This is not Team Russia being kicked out. This is individual people who just happen to be born there. Most of them don't even live there. Heck, 99% of the tennis players in this world in the top 50 ranking live in tax havens. They either, quote, live in the Bahamas or Monte Carlo, Monaco, because they don't have to pay a lot of taxes. Sure, they probably have a cottage back home, and most of the rich tennis players also have a home in Florida, because that seems to be that's the global tennis capital. That's pretty much where all tennis players spend most of their time when they're not on tour, at one of the millions of training well, not millions, hundreds of tennis facilities in Florida. If you Google any top tennis player and type in the word fan mail, you'll get a website that'll tell you to write them somewhere in Florida. So, do I have an opinion on Wimbledon banning Russians or not? Not really. I mean, I am a human rights activist, and from that perspective, I think it's, I would say, not a good idea. It sets a dangerous precedent. It's also worth noting, none of the other countries that have run tennis tournaments since this war started have banned anybody. We had the French Open. Does that mean they support the Russians? No, not necessarily. What about the Italian Open? What about the Monte Carlo Open? What did that? I mean, I guess the issue I'm seeing is there seems to be more negativity directed towards the WTA and the ATP for stripping the ranking points than there is outrage over Wimbledon discriminating against certain players. Just watched Piers Morgan talk with Martina Navratilova about this, and what a mistake that was. Both of these assholes, it doesn't seem to matter what the topic is, it always turns into a conversation about trans athletes. So Piers and Martina, fuck both of you. This particular interview was full of misinformation. Martina claims that trans women don't have a change in the ability to produce muscles and oxygen, so that is totally false. But yeah, let's not get too sidetracked here. They're also, I mean, they're obviously right wingers, these two, Piers and Martina, and they were taking a shot at Naomi Osaka, who's, I guess, a favorite of the left-leaning, shall we say. And Martina was criticizing Osaka, probably based on principle, but Osaka said, she made a pun out of it, that it's literally pointless. She said, I don't want to call it pointless, but it really is, because there's no points. Martina's like, well, I didn't play for points, I played for trophies. And the other issue, of course, is money. I'm going to show you how old I am. The year I was born, there was a Wimbledon boycott by 81 of the top men players in the world. I'm not going to tell you the year. Let's just say, for some reason, Yugoslavia's Davis Cup team was pissed off that one of their players didn't want to go to New Zealand and play an exhibition match. Well, Davis Cup it's exhibition. There's no points for that, is there? So they suspended this player from their own tennis federation, essentially meaning that said player, Nikola Pilic, would not be allowed to play tennis in his home country. For some reason, Wimbledon respected said suspension and said, okay, if this guy's not allowed to play in his own country, we won't let him play at Wimbledon. And he's probably saying, what the heck did I ever do to you, Wimbledon? I'm a Yugoslavian who didn't want to go and play an exhibition match in New Zealand, so you're going to ban me from playing at your tournament? Yeah, it didn't make sense. And the ATP was a fairly new association, a union. And the players are like, we're not going to let this happen. It could set a dangerous precedent. I think that's something a few of the other players have pointed out, the concept of a precedent here. So 81 players said, okay, fuck you, Wimbledon. We're not going to play if you're not going to let Nikki Pilic play. Pilic was the defending champion, I believe. And despite the prize money, the points, the trophies, anything else, the opportunity to hang out with Martina Navritilova, was she playing then? 73. Oh, I just told you the year. I think Martina's career actually started that year. But if you can get a bunch of players to boycott Wimbledon over a Davis Cup situation, here's your solution, folks. All you got to do now is say, we're not going to play. I get it. Some of these players are going to say, I'm ranked 114 in the world. I barely make enough money throughout the year to pay my expenses. If I get into Wimbledon and just play one match, I get myself $110,000. That'll give me enough money to pay for a coach and travel around the tour. So I get that. Some of these top-ranked players who have millions of dollars, they don't need to go and play Wimbledon. Maybe we could have some sort of profit sharing. I don't know. Maybe some of these millionaires like Naomi Osaka could get together with, I don't know, whether it's the top 20 or the top 40, work out some sort of profit sharing agreement so that players ranked below a certain threshold who really need the money could find compensation elsewhere. I have no problem with ATP and WTA stripping the points. I think it's the only just thing to do. And I think they should have stripped the points from Queens as well. And any of these events, if they're not open events, the term open, you hear it all the time, open era. The tennis open era. Things changed from amateur to open. But it also means open in a sense that everyone's welcome or allowed. It's not just exclusive. Way back in the 1880s, whenever they invented this sport, some of these tournaments were just country specific. You could only play the French Open if you were from France. Likewise, Wimbledon was only played by people born in the UK. So yeah, again, as someone who played tennis, not at the pro level, but I can understand the argument that a team sport, you might take the approach differently, but this is an individual sport. And especially, we've seen arguments made that pro-Putin athletes, such as Alexander Ovechkin of the Washington Capitals, if they're not going to kick him out of the NHL, then why are you going to kick out a guy like Andrei Rublev, who wrote right on the TV screen, "No war," or "No war, please." Here's a guy coming out against the war, a Russian, and who knows what type of risk he could be putting himself in. These players, even if they live in Monte Carlo, I'm sure they have family and friends back home in Russia, and they don't want to put their family and friends at risk by saying something that would aggravate Putin. But I guess the real trigger for me turning the camera on, I was too sick, obviously, to go to work or even go out of the house today. But I did turn the TV on and watch a little bit of the tennis. And I was flipping back and forth between Queens and Halley. And every time I turned the Queens one on, I got this, I don't know, felt like a punch in the stomach. It's like, I just felt sick. It's like, I shouldn't be watching this. It's not right. And I switched over to the Halley and left it on the Halley channel for the rest of the day. And that's another thing. I love the grass tennis product. The fast surface, the serve and volley game. I grew up, I was a teenager in the early 90s, so back when people like Pete Sampras and Boris Becker and Richard Krajicek, Michael Steek, those were the guys playing Wimbledon and winning Wimbledon, or doing well at Wimbledon. Later on, people like Rafter and Ivanisevic. And my own personal style, I never had a great forehand. So when I played tennis at the club level, my goal was to come to the net as soon as possible, because I felt I could defeat my opponents. I was better at the net than anyone else in my neighborhood or in my club, whereas if it got into a baseline rally, I could be in a little bit of trouble. So naturally, I've always looked forward to Wimbledon most out of the 4 Grand Slams, and paid more attention to the grass court tournaments than any of the other tournaments over the years. Of course, I lived in Toronto for many, many years and went to the hard court Canadian Open many years, of course. No grass courts in Canada that I'm aware of, but we seem to have lost that in tennis. I don't know if it's the bigger rackets or just the training, but serving volleys, kind of, you don't see it much anymore. Even on grass. I mean, we're seeing baseliners winning Wimbledon now. And meanwhile, the grass court season is the shortest. I mean, they have one major, no thousands, 2 500s, and a couple of 250s. And right before that, you got the clay court, you got the French major, you got 3,000s, you got 500s, you got 250s. Tons of more tournaments. Heck, I'm really furious right now because there are challengers. I love the challengers. Basically, players ranked below 100 will sign up for a challenger. Instead of getting 1,000 points to win, you get 125. Instead of getting $1 million to win, you get 100,000. No, not that much. Maybe 20 or 30,000. Bottom line, if you can't get enough tennis out of the top tier, you follow the challengers and you get to know these players ranked between 100 and 300. So we got one challenger on grass this week, but we've got 1, 2, 3 on clay. We need to encourage more grass court tennis. And that's why it hurts me to say that I don't want to watch Wimbledon this year because of all this discrimination. And I'm not sure I'm going to want to watch any more Queens. I'm going to watch some Halley. I'm hoping to get better and get back to work and get into my routine. And being sick is not fun. But non-alcoholic beer. I don't know if that's good for the sore throat or not, but I don't have any cough syrup, so it's going to have to do. Boycott would solve everything. Because no matter what, people are going to be angry. If players like Naomi say I'm not going to play, they're going to be... The cancel culture people will be out there. Vice versa. Other players who do show up are going to get criticized. Again, I sympathize with the Ukrainian people. But who is a Ukrainian tennis player to criticize a Belarusian or a Russian tennis player for simply trying to make a living? And I think some of the reactions we've seen out of some of the Ukrainian tennis players have been a little bit, I don't know, not well thought out. Marta Kostyuk has been very vocal about this, and I can appreciate everything she's going through. But again, I just, if the shoe was on the other foot, how would she feel? I don't know. Is there a right or wrong answer? I think bottom line is, I think Djokovic said it best a couple weeks ago. When politics starts interfering with sports, then we have a problem. And it seems like a cop-out. Governments of the world leaders need to stand up and deal with this. Don't just sit on the sidelines and ask the tennis people to fight the wars and make the sanctions. If you don't agree with the war that Putin is undertaking, then stop him. Sanctions isn't going to stop him. How do we know that? Well, they haven't worked yet. How long has this been going on? 6 weeks? 7 weeks? 2 months? 3 months? But yeah, sorry Wimbledon. I won't be watching this year. And I hope you suffer. I hope a lot of players don't show up. I hope it's a terrible tournament. I hope it rains every day. And I'll be looking forward to the hardcourt season in mid-July. So there you go. Once again, Piers Morgan, Martina Navritilova, fuck you.